Tlahuicole. He was a warrior from the heart of what is now Mexico, and not just any warrior. By the age of 19, he was already leading his people against the Aztec Empire. Yes, that Aztec Empire. This war was not symbolic. If his tribe lost, there would be no prisoners, only sacrifices. Warriors laid out on cold stone atop massive temples, while 5 priests cut open their chests and tore out their still-beating hearts as offerings to the gods. In the middle of that reality, Tlahuicole was an anomaly. He wielded a wooden club so massive that an ordinary soldier could not even lift it. He advanced like a one-man army, bones shattering like glass, blood falling in his wake. A human catastrophe given form. Eventually, sheer numbers prevailed. He was captured, chained, and brought before Emperor Moctezuma II to face judgment. What followed shattered all expectations. Moctezuma was so impressed with his strength that instead of ordering his sacrifice, he offered him freedom. An offer anyone else would have accepted without hesitation. But not Tlahuicole. He said that returning to his homeland after an honorable defeat would be disgraceful, and that he preferred to die with dignity. He demanded sacrifice. The emperor refused to waste such strength and offered him something else: command of an army to fight an invading tribe on the empire's borders. Tlahuicole accepted, hoping at last to find a glorious death in battle. But the campaign became a slaughter. He and his men crushed the invaders with a terrifying display of strength and true warrior skill. No one could stand against him. He destroyed his enemies, and yet he lived. Denied the death he sought, he returned to Moctezuma, and this time did not ask. He demanded to be sacrificed. Out of respect for his physical power and the unbreakable strength of his character, the emperor agreed. Tlahuicole was bound to a stone pillar in an arena resembling those of Roman gladiators. Before an audience of nobles, he was forced to fight 8 renowned warriors, one after another, still chained, armed only with his wooden club. To everyone's astonishment, he defeated them all, until the 9th finally stunned him with a brutal blow to the head. With the great warrior finally fallen, the moment he had sought from the beginning arrived. His heart was offered to the gods, not as punishment, but as tribute. Spartacus. Spartacus was not born a legend. He was born free. He was Thracian, from a mountainous region north of Greece where war was practically a native language. From a young age, he learned how to fight and may have even served as an auxiliary soldier in the Roman army. The irony is brutal. He learned to fight for Rome and ended up becoming its worst nightmare. Something went wrong. Maybe he deserted. Maybe he rebelled. Rome was never clear about the details. What was clear was the punishment: chains, slavery, and an invisible label that read, "Property of the Empire." Spartacus did not fight for glory. He fought to keep breathing. Each day brought him closer to an arena where death was entertainment, and without realizing it, his path led straight to the ludus of Lentulus Batiatus in Capua, essentially a factory of violence with bleachers. Life there was brutal: beatings, punishment, training until collapse. They were not shaping athletes, they were polishing corpses with a scheduled expiration date. But Spartacus stood out, not just for his strength, but for his discipline. Then came 73 BC. More than 70 slaves decided that dying while fighting was better than dying as entertainment. They stole kitchen knives, yes, knives, and began the most improvised rebellion in history. Absurdly, it worked. During their escape, they found a cart full of gladiator weapons and went from improvised cooks to an armed army in a matter of minutes. Rome had just made its first major mistake. Spartacus knew one crucial thing: if they were captured, there would be no mercy, only torture, crucifixion, and public example. So they fled to Mount Vesuvius and began recruiting anyone who hated Rome enough: slaves, peasants, deserters. And they all agreed on one thing: Spartacus was in command. Rome didn't take them seriously and sent a small force to surround them and starve them out. Mistake number 2. The gladiators descended the other side of the volcano using ropes made of vines and launched a surprise attack. They crushed the Roman force as if it were a badly played tutorial. At that moment, Rome realized something uncomfortable. It had underestimated the wrong man. Spartacus's army grew to tens of thousands, most with no formal training, yet transformed into a real military force. They defeated legions, ravaged the Roman countryside, and humiliated the empire again and again. The original plan was simple: cross the Alps and disappear. Total freedom. But his men felt invincible. If no one could stop them, why not march on Rome itself? Meanwhile, in the Senate, someone raised his hand with a dangerous smile. Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome, with a fortune that today would be worth around $20 billion. He wanted one thing: the glory of crushing the rebellion. He paid for armies, trained troops, and cornered Spartacus in southern Italy. Spartacus tried to cross into Sicily to regroup, but the pirates he hired did what pirates do best: take the money and vanish. With no escape, he chose to fight. Final battle. All or nothing. Legend says he fought his way through enemy soldiers, searching directly for Crassus. He didn't want to flee, he wanted to end it. He fell in combat, surrounded by enemies, and his body was never found. The rebellion was crushed. Thousands of survivors were crucified along the Appian Way as a warning. Rome had won, yes, but at a massive symbolic cost. Because Spartacus lost the war, but he won something far more dangerous: memory. A slave standing against the most powerful empire in the world. An improvised army versus a billionaire. An ancient story that, strangely enough, still feels far too current. Miyamoto Musashi. Miyamoto Musashi was born in 1584 in the Japanese village of Miyamoto, and his story began badly from the very first moment. His mother died during childbirth, and the child was named Benosuke. His father, Munisai, was abusive and expelled him from home when he was barely 6 years old, forcing him to face the world completely alone. He ended up living with his uncle, a peaceful Buddhist monk who tried to teach him spiritual discipline and a quiet life, but fate had other plans. At 12 years old, Benosuke challenged a master swordsman to a duel. He disarmed him and beat him to death using nothing but a wooden staff. At 16, he repeated the story against another master in almost the same way. In that moment, he understood that his life would never be peaceful, and once again, he left on his own, this time adopting a new name: Miyamoto Musashi, the deadliest samurai to ever live. Throughout his life, he fought in countless duels to death and was never defeated. If you wanted even the slightest chance of surviving a fight against him, you had to understand how he thought and what to expect from him. As Sun Tzu warned, know your enemy. Musashi deliberately arrived late to duels, enraging his opponents with what seemed like blatant disrespect. In a culture built on honor, this psychological tactic was devastating. While his enemies burned with anger, he arrived calm, composed, and fully focused, defeating them with superior precision. For Musashi, combat began the moment a challenge was issued. He often ambushed his opponents, appearing out of nowhere and killing them before they could react. He trained against experts in every kind of weapon, including spears, long swords, and the kusarigama, and fought on multiple occasions against several enemies at once, defeating them not through brute strength, but through mental reading, perfect timing, and absolute control of chaos. Simo Häyhä. Simo Häyhä emerges in one of the most hostile environments imaginable: the Winter War, the Soviet invasion of Finland ordered by Stalin in 1939. An endless white landscape where snow crunches beneath the boots of Soviet soldiers advancing cautiously, unaware that they are already being watched. Suddenly, a shot rings out. They don't see the enemy, but one man falls dead. Another shot, another body in the snow. As fear grips the group, no one can detect where death is coming from, because hidden among the frozen foliage lies a completely motionless figure, covered in a white coat that makes him invisible against the landscape. finger resting on the trigger, armed with absolute patience. That man is Simo Häyhä, known to his enemies as the White Death. Born in 1905, he was a farmer who spent his days hunting and shooting as a simple pastime, until war called him at the age of 33. He joined the Finnish army carrying something no accelerated training could ever produce: decades of real practice. Marksmanship skills learned since childhood while hunting birds alongside his father made him invaluable in combat. The rifle he used during the war was neither sophisticated nor special. It was the same simple weapon he had trained with for years. No scope, no technological advantages, just calculation, breath control, and a steady hand. And yet, that was more than enough. The Winter War lasted only 105 days, and in that brief period, Simo Häyhä achieved over 500 confirmed kills, the highest number ever recorded by a sniper in any major war in history. One man turned into a nightmare, invisible, silent, and absolutely lethal. This is the end of this myth. If you know of any warrior with the same level of lethality, let me know in the comments for a future video. Until next time.